The sun dipped low over Willow Creek, Oregon, casting a golden glow across the quiet streets of a small town where life moved slow and secrets simmered beneath the surface. In the heart of a modest neighborhood stood a 3-bedroom house, its white picket fence weathered but proud, its porch swing creaking softly in the evening breeze. This was Noah Bennett's home, a sanctuary forged from his mother's love and sacrifice. At 28, Noah was a man of routine. Steady job at a local hardware store, a tight circle of friends, and a life built on the foundation of this house. But to him, it was more than just a place to live. It was his mother's legacy, the last piece of her he could hold on to. Inside, the house smelled of cedar and memory. The hardwood floors bore the scuffs of Noah's childhood, the walls adorned with faded photos of him and his mom, Ellen. There she was, laughing in a Polaroid from his 10th birthday, her auburn hair catching the sunlight. Another frame held her in a hospital gown, frail but smiling, just weeks before cancer claimed her 5 years ago. Ellen had been Noah's rock, the one constant in a world where his father, Richard, had drifted away after a bitter divorce. She'd worked 2 jobs to buy this house, pouring every ounce of herself into its walls to give Noah stability. When she passed, her will was clear. The house was his, a tether to her love, a promise that he'd never be rootless. Noah sat at the kitchen table, a cup of coffee cooling in his hands, staring at the grain of the wood as if it held answers. The silence of the house was his comfort, a stark contrast to the chaos of his father's new family. Richard had remarried quickly after the divorce, tying himself to Lydia, a woman with a sharp tongue and sharper ambitions. Lydia's daughter, Chloe, was 25 now, pregnant, and the undisputed princess of their household. Noah had kept his distance, seeing Richard only at awkward holiday dinners where Lydia's passive-aggressive comments and Chloe's entitled smirks made it clear he was an outsider. He didn't mind. This house was his world, and he had no intention of letting anyone disrupt it. But disruption was coming. It started with a phone call 2 weeks ago, Richard's voice unusually serious. "We need to talk, Noah. It's important." Noah, sensing the weight behind the words, agreed to drive to their place on the other side of Willow Creek. The moment he stepped into their cramped, over-decorated living room, he knew something was wrong. Richard sat stiffly on the couch, Lydia perched beside him like a hawk, and Chloe lounged in an armchair, one hand on her swollen belly, her eyes gleaming with quiet confidence. The air was thick with unspoken plans. They started with small talk, the kind that feels like a prelude to a punch. Richard asked about Noah's job. Lydia nodded with feigned interest, but their words were hollow. Then, without warning, Richard cleared his throat. "Noah, we've been thinking about Chloe. With the baby coming, our house is too small. She needs a stable place to raise her child." Before Noah could respond, Lydia cut in, her voice syrupy but sharp. "Your house, Noah. It's so big for just one person. You're not married, no kids. It makes sense for Chloe to move in. She needs the space, and you could easily find a nice apartment. We've even looked at some listings for you." Noah's heart thudded in his chest, a mix of shock and rage. The audacity of it, their assumption that his home, his mother's gift, was theirs to reassign, hit him like a slap. He looked at Chloe, expecting her to say something, but she just sat there, rubbing her belly, a faint smirk playing on her lips. It was as if she already knew he'd cave, that her needs trumped his existence. "You're serious?" Noah said, his voice low, barely containing the storm inside him. "You think I should give up my home, the one Mom left me, for Chloe?" Lydia's smile tightened. "It's about family, Noah. Chloe's bringing a new life into this world. Don't you think that's more important than you rattling around in that big house all alone?" Richard nodded, his eyes avoiding Noah's. "We're not saying forever, just until Chloe's on her feet. You'd be helping your sister." Noah's jaw clenched at the word sister. Chloe was no sister to him, just a spoiled stranger who'd been handed everything while he fought for every scrap of peace. "This isn't just a house," Noah said, his voice trembling with emotion. "It's Mom's. She worked her whole life for it. She left it to me because she trusted me to keep it, to honor what it meant. You don't get to waltz in and decide it's yours to give away." He stood, his chair scraping against the floor. The answer is no. End of discussion. Lydia's eyes narrowed, but Chloe didn't flinch, her smirk unshaken. Richard sighed, as if Noah's refusal was a minor inconvenience. Think about it, he said. We're just trying to do what's best for everyone. Noah didn't respond. He walked out, the slam of their front door echoing in his ears as he drove back to his sanctuary. But the weight of their words clung to him. This wasn't just a request, it was a declaration of war. They didn't see him as the owner of his home, but as an obstacle to Chloe's comfort. And Noah knew, deep in his gut, that this was only the beginning. They wouldn't stop until they got what they wanted or until he made them. If you're moved by Noah's fight to protect his mother's legacy, don't miss what's coming next. Subscribe to our channel for more gripping stories of resilience and triumph. Hit that button and join the journey. The days following Noah Bennett's confrontation with his father's family were heavy with unease, like the calm before a storm rolling over Willow Creek's rolling hills. Noah tried to reclaim his routine, mornings at the hardware store, evenings on the porch swing with a beer, but the memory of Lydia's sharp words and Chloe's smug smirk lingered like a bad taste. He knew they wouldn't let his refusal stand. They never did. In their world, Chloe's wants were law, and Noah was just a stubborn roadblock to be flattened. Started small, insidious, like a crack in a dam. One Saturday afternoon, Noah was mowing the lawn, the hum of the machine drowning out the world, when a familiar silver SUV pulled into his driveway. Richard stepped out, his gray hair thinning, his shoulders slouched under the weight of years and compromises. Behind him was Lydia, her blonde hair pulled into a tight bun, her face a mask of calculated warmth. In her arms was a pastel blue baby blanket, and from the back seat emerged Chloe, her manicured nails glinting as she hauled a stroller from the trunk. She moved with the confidence of someone who'd never been told no, her designer maternity dress hugging her belly, her green eyes scanning the house like it was already hers. "Noah," Lydia called, her voice dripping with false cheer. "We thought we'd drop by. Chloe's got some things for the baby, and we figured you've got plenty of space to store them." Noah cut the mower's engine, his pulse quickening. He wiped sweat from his brow and walked toward them, his boots crunching on the gravel. "What's this?" he asked, eyeing the stroller and a stack of boxes Richard was unloading. "You didn't call." Richard shifted uncomfortably, avoiding Noah's gaze. "It's just temporary, son. Chloe's place is too small for all this. Your guest room's empty, isn't it?" Lydia chimed in, her smile unwavering. "It's for the baby, Noah. You wouldn't want Chloe stressed, would you? It's not healthy for her condition." Chloe said nothing, but her lips curled into that familiar smirk, a silent challenge. She leaned against the SUV, one hand on her hip, as if waiting for Noah to roll over. Noah's stomach churned with a mix of anger and disbelief. "This is my house," he said, his voice steady but laced with warning. "Not a storage unit. Take it back." Lydia's smile faltered, but Chloe stepped forward, her heels clicking on the pavement. "God, Noah, why do you have to make everything so difficult?" she snapped, her voice sharp with entitlement. "I'm having a baby. I need this. You're just sitting here alone in this big house, hoarding space you don't even use. It's selfish." The word hit Noah like a punch to the gut. Selfish. The same word his mother had never used, even when he'd messed up as a kid. He remembered her voice, soft but firm, telling him to stand tall, to protect what mattered. "Selfish?" he repeated, his voice low, dangerous. "You think I'm selfish for keeping what Mom left me? This isn't just a house, Chloe. It's her. It's everything she worked for. You don't get to waltz in and claim it because you want it." Chloe's eyes narrowed, her face flushing with indignation. "Oh, please, spare me the sob story about your mom," she spat. "You're not the only one with problems. I'm about to be a single mother, and you're acting like your little shrine to the past is more important than my kid's future. Get over yourself, Noah." The air crackled with tension, Richard and Lydia frozen, unsure whether to intervene. Noah took a step closer, his fists clenched. "Get over myself? You've been handed everything your whole life, Chloe. You don't know what it's like to fight for something. This house is mine. If you want space, go find it somewhere else. For a moment, Chloe looked stunned, her mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water. Then she turned to Lydia, her voice rising. Mom, are you hearing this? He's unbelievable. Lydia stepped in, her warmth replaced by a steely edge. Noah, you're being unreasonable. We're family. Families help each other. Noah laughed, a bitter sound that echoed across the yard. Family? You don't get to call yourself that when you're trying to take what's mine. Take your stuff and leave. Now, Richard finally spoke, his voice weak. Noah, let's not fight. We're just trying to. Noah cut him off.
No, Dad.
You don't get to play peacemaker when you're part of this. Get out. He stood his ground, watching as they reluctantly loaded the boxes back into the SUV. Chloe shot him a venomous glare, but Noah didn't flinch. As they drove away, he felt a hollow victory, knowing this was only the beginning. The next week brought a new low. Noah was in his living room, flipping through a photo album, when a knock at the door startled him. He opened it to find Richard standing there, looking more haggard than ever, beside a woman in a blazer holding a clipboard. Noah, this is Karen, Richard said, his voice unsteady. She's a realtor. We thought she could show you some apartments. You know, something more practical for you. Karen smiled, oblivious to the tension, and started rattling off listings. Noah's blood boiled. His own father, standing on his porch, trying to sell him out of his home like it was nothing. Are you kidding me? Noah said, his voice shaking with rage. You brought a realtor to my house without asking? Get her off my property. Karen's smile vanished, and Richard stammered. We're just trying to help. Noah. Noah slammed the door, his heart pounding. He leaned against it, closing his eyes, and saw his mother's face in his mind. He walked to the mantel, where a small wooden box held her last letter to him. He opened it, tracing her familiar handwriting. This house is yours, Noah. It's your strength, your home. Don't let anyone take it from you. The words steeled him. That night, Noah called a security company and scheduled the installation of cameras around the property. He wasn't just protecting a house. He was guarding his mother's memory, his own peace. But as he lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, doubt crept in. Could he keep fighting them? Richard's weakness, Lydia's manipulation, Chloe's arrogance. They were a relentless force, and Noah was alone. Yet the thought of his mother, of her sacrifices, burned brighter than his fear. He wouldn't let them win. The cameras went up the next day, their red lights blinking like sentinels. Noah felt a flicker of control, but he knew the storm was far from over. Richard and Lydia weren't the type to give up, and Chloe's entitlement was a wildfire, consuming everything in its path. They'd come back, and when they did, Noah would be ready. But what he didn't know was how far they'd go, how low they'd sink to get what they wanted. Noah's fight is just heating up, and you won't believe what his family does next. Subscribe to our channel to follow this gripping saga of betrayal and resilience. Hit that button and stay with us. The morning sun filtered through the lace curtains of Noah Bennett's kitchen, casting delicate shadows on the hardwood floor. It was a quiet Saturday in Willow Creek, Oregon, the kind of day where the town seemed to hold its breath. Noah sat at the table, a half-eaten slice of toast forgotten beside him, as he tore open a letter from the Willow Creek County Clerk's office. The words on the page hit him like a freight train. Notice of title transfer request. His house, the one his mother, Ellen, had poured her life into, was slated to be transferred to Chloe. And there, at the bottom, was his signature. Except it wasn't his. The looping scrawl was a mockery, a forgery so blatant it made his blood run cold. Noah's hands shook as he read the letter again, the paper crinkling under his grip. His mind raced back to his mother, her tired but determined face as she signed her will, her voice steady. This is yours, Noah. Always. This wasn't a mistake. This was betrayal. He stood, pacing the kitchen, when his eyes caught something on the counter. A folded piece of paper tucked beneath a stack of junk mail. He unfolded it, his heart sinking. It was a photocopy of the same forged document, left behind like a taunting breadcrumb. Lydia's carelessness, or perhaps her arrogance, had given him proof. The realization hit him. They'd been in his house, planning this behind his back. He grabbed his phone and dialed Sarah, his lawyer, his voice tight with urgency. "I need you to look at something. Now." An hour later, Noah sat in Sarah's cramped office, the forged documents spread out on her desk like a crime scene. Sarah, a no-nonsense woman with sharp eyes and a sharper mind, leaned back in her chair. "This is a forgery, Noah. A bad one. But there's more." She slid a folder across the desk, revealing email exchanges between Richard and another lawyer, dated months ago. The emails detailed attempts to challenge Ellen's will, to reclassify the house as family property. And at the heart of it was Lydia, her name woven through every step, her words pushing Richard to act. "She's the architect of this," Sarah said. "Your father's just her puppet." Noah's chest tightened, a mix of rage and grief. His father, the man who'd once taught him to ride a bike, had let Lydia orchestrate this betrayal. He thought of Richard's weak excuses, his averted eyes, and Lydia's calculated smiles. How could he do this? Noah whispered, more to himself than Sarah. She sighed, her voice softening. "People do terrible things when they're desperate, or when they're controlled. But this forgery is a crime. We can nail them for it." Noah nodded, his jaw set. "Do it, whatever it takes." That evening, Noah drove to Richard and Lydia's house, the forged document burning a hole in his jacket pocket. The sky was bruised with storm clouds, mirroring the tempest in his heart. He didn't knock. He pushed the door open, finding Richard in the living room, slumped in an armchair, a glass of whiskey in his hand. Lydia stood by the window, her blonde hair catching the dim light, her face a mask of composure. "Noah," she said, her voice smooth as silk. "What a surprise." "No games," Noah snapped, slamming the document on the coffee table. "Explain this." Richard's eyes widened, his glass trembling. Lydia didn't flinch, but her lips tightened. "What are you talking about?" she asked, feigning innocence. Noah laughed, a harsh, broken sound. "Don't play dumb, Lydia. You forged my signature to steal my house. You left your evidence in my kitchen, like you thought I'd never notice. Did you really think you'd get away with it?" Richard stammered. "Noah, it's not what it looks like." But Noah cut him off, his voice rising. "Not what it looks like. You went behind my back, Dad. You let her," he jabbed a finger at Lydia, "convince you to take Mom's house from me. You betrayed me, and you betrayed her memory." Lydia stepped forward, her eyes glinting with tears. Crocodile tears, Noah knew. "We were just trying to help Chloe," she said, her voice quivering. "She needs a home, Noah. You're tearing this family apart over a house." Noah's fists clenched, his voice cold. "You don't get to talk about family. You crossed a line. This isn't just a house. It's Mom's legacy. And you thought you could steal it with a fake signature? I'm filing a police report tomorrow. Forgery's a felony, Lydia. You're done." Lydia's composure cracked, her face paling. Richard buried his face in his hands, muttering, "I didn't want this." Noah stared at him, the man who'd once been his father, now a stranger. "You did this," he said quietly. "Live with it." He turned and walked out, the door slamming behind him. Back home, Noah's phone buzzed relentlessly. Chloe's name flashed on the screen, her voice tearful when he finally answered. "Noah, please," she begged. "Don't do this. Think about my baby. We didn't mean to hurt you." Noah listened, his heart a stone. "You meant to take what's mine," he said. "You don't get to cry now." He hung up, silencing her sobs. The next morning, he met Sarah at the police station, filing the forgery complaint. The officer, a grizzled man named Jenkins, nodded grimly. "We'll investigate. This is serious." Word spread fast in Willow Creek. By evening, Noah overheard whispers at the local diner. Neighbors questioning Richard and Lydia's character, their scheme unraveling in the court of public opinion. Back home, Noah opened the wooden box on his mantel, pulling out his mother's letter. Her words steadied him. "Don't let anyone take it from you." He traced the ink, his resolve ironclad. They'd gone too far and he'd make them pay. But deep down, he knew this wasn't the end. Lydia's desperation, Richard's weakness, Chloe's entitlement. They'd strike again, and Noah had to be ready. Noah's fight against this unforgivable betrayal is only getting fiercer. Don't miss a single moment of his battle for justice. Subscribe to our channel now and stand with him against the odds. The moon hung low over Willow Creek, its pale light spilling across the quiet streets, casting long shadows on Noah Bennett's modest home. It was late, the kind of hour where the world felt still, but Noah's day at the hardware store had stretched into overtime, leaving him drained as he pulled into his driveway. His headlights swept across the white picket fence, catching a glint of something out of place. A car parked crookedly on the curb. Lydia's silver SUV. Noah's stomach twisted, a primal instinct warning him of trouble. He grabbed his phone, checking the security app. The cameras showed movement inside his house, 2 figures in the living room. His blood ran cold. They were inside. Noah stepped out of his truck, his boots silent on the gravel, and approached the front door. It was ajar, the lock tampered with, a spare key he'd forgotten to replace glinting in the moonlight. He pushed the door open, his heart pounding, and stepped into a scene that felt like a violation of his soul. Chloe stood in the living room, her maternity dress glowing under the lamplight, stacking baby clothes on the coffee table as if she owned the place. Lydia was beside her, arranging a crib against the wall Noah's mother had painted years ago. The audacity of it, their brazen invasion of his sanctuary, ignited a fire in Noah's chest. "What the hell are you doing?" Noah's voice cut through the room like a blade. Chloe flinched, dropping a onesie, but her green eyes hardened with defiance. Lydia turned, her face a mask of false calm, though her hands trembled slightly. "Noah, we didn't expect you back so soon," Lydia said, her voice smooth but strained. "We're just setting up for Chloe. This house is perfect for her and the baby. You know that." Noah's gaze locked on Chloe, who stepped forward, her chin raised, her voice dripping with entitlement. "This is happening, Noah," she said, her words sharp and reckless. "I need this house for my kid. You can't keep hogging it out of some sad attachment to your mom. It's mine now." The words hit Noah like a slap, her dismissal of his mother's memory a wound that bled fresh. He took a step closer, his fists clenched. "Yours? You break into my home, touch my things, and think you can claim it? Get out. Both of you. Now." Lydia moved between them, her eyes glinting with desperation. "Noah, be reasonable," she said, her tone shifting to manipulation. "Think about Chloe's baby. Your nephew. Don't you want him to have a stable home?" Noah laughed, a bitter sound that echoed off the walls. "Stable? You call sneaking into my house stable? You're thieves, Lydia. And you," he turned to Chloe, "you're so used to getting your way you think you can just take what's mine. Not this time." Chloe's face twisted with rage, her Lilafield boldness spilling over. "You're pathetic," she spat, stepping closer, her finger jabbing at his chest. "Living here alone, clinging to a dead woman's house like it's your whole personality. My baby deserves this more than you." Noah's vision blurred with fury, but before he could respond, Lydia grabbed his arm, her nails digging in. "Enough!" she snapped, shoving him toward the door. The force caught him off guard, his shoulder hitting the wall with a thud. Pain flared, but Noah steadied himself, his voice low and dangerous. "You just made a big mistake." He pulled out his phone, dialing 911, his eyes never leaving them. "I'm at 142 Maple Street," he said to the dispatcher, his voice calm but resolute. "2 people broke into my house. They're still here. Send someone now." Lydia's face drained of color, her composure shattering. "Noah, don't do this," she pleaded, her voice cracking. Chloe, undeterred, lunged for the phone, but Noah stepped back, his glare silencing her. "You're done," he said. "Sit down and wait." Minutes later, red and blue lights flashed through the windows, bathing the living room in a surreal glow. 2 officers entered, their boots heavy on the hardwood. Officer Jenkins, the same man who'd taken Noah's forgery complaint, surveyed the scene. "What's going on here?" he asked, his eyes narrowing at Lydia and Chloe. Lydia tried to spin a story, her voice trembling about helping family, but Chloe's bravado crumbled. She clutched her belly, tears streaming down her face. "Please, I'm pregnant," she sobbed. "We just needed a place for my baby." Noah stood firm, his voice steady. "They broke in. They've been trying to steal my house for months. I want them out." Jenkins didn't hesitate. "Ma'am," he said to Lydia, "you're under arrest for unlawful entry." He cuffed her, her face contorting with fury as she shouted, "This is outrageous. Noah, you'll regret this." Chloe wailed, begging Noah to reconsider, but he turned away, his heart a fortress. The second officer escorted Chloe out, warning her not to return. As the police car pulled away, neighbors gathered on their porches, whispering about the scandal that had erupted on Maple Street. Willow Creek would talk about this for weeks. Alone in his house, Noah locked the door, his hands shaking as he surveyed the mess. Baby clothes strewn across the floor, his mother's wall scuffed from the crib. He sank onto the couch, the weight of the night pressing down. They'd crossed every line, and yet he'd stood his ground. His phone buzzed with texts from friends, Jake from the hardware store, Emma from high school, offering support. "You okay, man?" Jake wrote. "Heard what happened. We've got your back." Noah managed a faint smile, their words a lifeline. He walked to the mantel, opening the wooden box where his mother's letter lay. Her handwriting was a bomb. "This house is yours, Noah. Your strength." He closed his eyes, vowing to protect it, no matter what came next. The cameras blinked outside, their red lights a silent promise. Lydia and Chloe had lost this round, but Noah knew their desperation would drive them to new lows. He wasn't just fighting for a house, he was fighting for his life, his mother's memory, and his right to say no. Noah's standing tall against his family's reckless betrayal, but the fight's not over. Subscribe to our channel to witness his next move in this heart-pounding battle for justice. Hit that button and join the stand. The dawn broke over Willow Creek, Oregon, painting the sky in hues of pink and gold, a quiet promise of new beginnings. But for Noah Bennett, the morning carried the weight of battles fought and scars still fresh. His mother's house stood firm, its white picket fence a defiant boundary against the chaos of his father's family. The events of the past weeks, the forged document, the break-in, the flashing police lights, had left Noah weary but unbowed. He was done playing defense. It was time to secure his home, his legacy, and his peace, once and for all. Noah sat across from Sarah, his lawyer, in her office, the air thick with the scent of coffee and old books. Papers were spread across the desk, title deeds, police reports, and a new complaint against Richard, Lydia, and Chloe for forgery and unlawful entry. Sarah's sharp eyes scanned the documents, her voice steady. "Your mother's will is ironclad, Noah. The house is yours, no question. But this," she tapped the forgery complaint, "this could bury them. Lydia's fingerprints are all over it, literally and figuratively. She's facing felony charges, and the police found her emails coordinating the scheme. She's crumbling under the pressure." Noah leaned back, processing the words. Lydia, the master manipulator with her crocodile tears and calculated smiles, was unraveling. He pictured her in their over-decorated living room, her blonde hair no longer pristine, her composure shattered by the weight of her own schemes. "What about my dad?" Noah asked, his voice low. Sarah sighed. "Richard's complicit, but he's not the brains. He's drowning in legal fees, and the DA's considering lesser charges for him. Chloe's not off the hook either. Her role in the break-in could mean probation. They're out of moves." The news should have felt like victory, but it left Noah hollow. His father, once a distant but familiar figure, was now a stranger who'd sold him out. Lydia's downfall was justice, but it couldn't erase the betrayal. Sarah slid a folder across the desk. "Sign these and we'll lock the title in your name. No loopholes. I've also got a title protection service monitoring for any shady activity. You're safe, Noah." He signed, his hand steady, but his heart heavy. "Thanks, Sarah," he said, "for everything." Back home, Noah's phone buzzed with messages from Lydia. Voicemails, texts, even a handwritten letter slipped under his door. "Noah, please." Her voice cracked in one message. "We made mistakes, but we're family. Don't destroy us." The letter was worse, a rambling plea cloaked in guilt trips, accusing Noah of abandoning Chloe's unborn child. He deleted the voicemails, burned the letter in the backyard, and blocked their numbers. Lydia's empire of manipulation was collapsing, and Noah refused to be her lifeline. Willow Creek had taken notice. At the local diner, Noah caught snippets of conversation. Neighbors whispering about Lydia's arrest, Richard's shame, Chloe's tearful outbursts in public. They thought they could bully that boy out of his own home, an elderly woman muttered over her coffee. Ellen would have been furious. The town's judgment was a quiet vindication, but it also isolated Noah. He was the victor, but at the cost of his last ties to family. The weight of it pressed on him as he walked home, the familiar creak of the porch swing a small comfort. That evening, Noah's friends rallied around him. Jake from the hardware store showed up with a six-pack, Emma from high school brought homemade lasagna, and a handful of others filled the living room with laughter and warmth. "This is a housewarming," Emma declared, raising a glass. "Not because it's new, but because you fought like hell to keep it." Noah laughed, the sound foreign but welcome. They ate, drank, and swapped stories, the room glowing with the kind of connection that blood couldn't guarantee. Jake clapped Noah on the shoulder. "You're tougher than you look, man. Ellen would be proud." Noah's throat tightened, but he smiled, feeling the truth of it. Later, alone in the quiet house, Noah opened the wooden box on the mantel, pulling out his mother's letter. Her words were a beacon. "This house is yours, Noah. Your strength." He sat on the couch, the weight of the past months settling around him. Richard, Lydia, Chloe, they weren't his family, not anymore. Family was Jake's loyalty, Emma's kindness, the neighbors who'd whispered their support. Family was his mother's love, etched into every wall of this house. He made a decision then, final and unshakable. He was done with them. No more calls, no more guilt trips. He was free. Noah stood, locking the door, the cameras outside blinking their silent vigil. The house was his not just in title but in spirit. He'd fought for it, bled for it, and won. But he knew Lydia's desperation, Richard's weakness, and Chloe's entitlement might resurface. If they did, he'd be ready. For now, he let the peace of the house envelop him, a hard-earned sanctuary in a world that had tested his limits. Noah's found his true family in the ashes of betrayal, but his journey's not over. Subscribe to our channel to see how he rebuilds and stands stronger than ever. Join us in celebrating his victory. Hit that button now. The autumn air in Willow Creek, Oregon, carried a crisp bite, the leaves turning shades of amber and crimson, a quiet reminder that seasons change, and so do people. Noah Bennett stood in the backyard of his mother's house, the place that had become his battlefield and his sanctuary. The white picket fence glowed under the fading sunlight, and the porch swing swayed gently, as if whispering memories of simpler times. Tonight, Noah wasn't just a man defending his home. He was a son honoring his mother, Ellen, whose love had built these walls and whose strength lived on in him. Noah had spent the day preparing a small ceremony, a tribute to the woman who'd given him everything. He strung fairy lights across the yard, their soft glow casting warmth on the grass. A wooden table held a framed photo of Ellen, her auburn hair catching the light in a moment frozen from Noah's childhood. Beside it, a cluster of candles flickered, their flames dancing in the evening breeze. Jake and Emma, his closest friends, arrived as the sky deepened to dusk, their faces soft with understanding. They didn't need to say much. Their presence was enough, a testament to the family Noah had chosen. As they gathered around the table, Noah lit the final candle, his hands steady but his heart full. "This is for Mom," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "She gave me this house, but more than that, she gave me the strength to fight for it." He looked at the photo, Ellen's smile radiant, and felt her presence in the quiet. Jake placed a hand on his shoulder, Emma's eyes glistening as she nodded. Noah took a deep breath, the words spilling out like a river breaking free. "These past months, I faced things I never thought I'd have to. My own father, his wife, my stepsister, they tried to take this from me. They lied, they broke in, they forged my name. But every time I wanted to give up, I thought of her. She worked 2 jobs, fought cancer, and never let anyone take her dignity. This house is her heart, and I couldn't let them steal it. Emma stepped forward, her voice soft but firm. You didn't just keep the house, Noah. You kept her alive in it. We're so proud of you. Jake nodded, raising a glass of cider. To Ellen and to Noah, the toughest guy I know. They clinked glasses, the sound mingling with the rustle of leaves. And for the first time in months, Noah felt light, as if the weight of betrayal had lifted, if only for a moment. They shared stories, Ellen's laugh, her stubborn streak, the way she'd sneak extra cookies into Noah's lunch. The yard filled with warmth, a stark contrast to the cold manipulation of Richard, Lydia, and Chloe. Later, as his friends left, Noah stayed in the house, the silence wrapping around him like a blanket. He sat on the couch, opening the wooden box on the mantel, his mother's letter a familiar comfort. Her words were a lifeline. This house is yours, Noah, your strength. He traced the ink, his mind replaying the battles, the forged document, the break-in, the police lights. He'd faced his father's weakness, Lydia's schemes, Chloe's entitlement, and come out stronger. But more than that, he'd learned what family meant. It wasn't blood, it was respect, loyalty, the people who stood by you when the world turned dark. Jake and Emma were his family, Willow Creek's whispers of support were his family, and Ellen's love was his foundation. Noah walked to the window, looking out at the house under the moonlight. The cameras blinked, the fence stood firm, and the swing creaked softly. This wasn't just a house. It was his victory, his mother's legacy, his proof that no one could break him. Richard, Lydia, and Chloe might try again, their desperation a shadow that never fully faded. But Noah was ready. He'd set his boundaries, forged in fire, and they were unbreakable. He stepped outside, the cool air brushing his face, and looked up at the stars. I did it, Mom, he whispered. It's ours. The house seemed to hum with her presence, a quiet affirmation. Noah was home, not just in place but in spirit, and no one could take that from him. To anyone facing their own battles, he'd say this: hold your ground, protect your peace, and never let guilt steal what's yours. Family is who lifts you up, not who tears you down. Noah's journey is a testament to resilience and the power of standing firm. Subscribe to our channel to discover more stories of courage and heart. Hit that button and join us in celebrating the unbreakable spirit